Ciao, it's Erin, and you are here in Marseille. Welcome to my home. Erin is a woman from Texas who has lived a very multifaceted life, who now lives in the south of France, who owns a dog named Bazzi, who's sitting in her house in Marseille. I grew up in Texas. I grew up around women that knew about, they had a love of fashion, a love of architecture, a love of culture. I think that people that know me know that like my authenticity is consistent, right? Like consistency, because I would like to leave a legacy that's very clear of who I am and what I believe in and what I think is romantic in the world. Here, it's a different pace, it's a different energy. It took me a long time to adjust my rhythm because I was used to just going and being productive as much as I wanted to. And here you really have to slow things down because you just can't do as much as you want to do. It has this really sort of beautiful small village community feel to it. It's a bit bohemian. I mean, the proximity to the sea. You can walk and get anything that you really need in a really small sort of way. And I like living this close to my neighbors. There's just a really beautiful sense of community. When I moved into my apartment in New York, and all I had was a big loft, and all I had was a mattress on the floor and my vinyls and my record player. And I was happy. Like I took 2 years before I even cared to buy furniture, because as long as I had something soft to sit on and I had my music, I was happy. My father was really into music, and I'm an analog woman. I prefer listening to vinyl, the way it sounds, the way it emulates space, the cracks, the pops of the records. It's just a different tonology. The beautiful thing about vinyl is that a lot of records you can't find digitally. And there's a lot of music that I have yet to discover. There's just so much. So I tend to go backwards than forwards when it comes to researching music. A day with Erin, probably way less enigmatic than people would assume. Wake up, make a coffee, feed the dog, check emails, walk the dog, or go to work, or go to the train, or go to the airplane. I mean, when you're living in a freelance sort of lifestyle, you don't often know what your days are going to look like, and things can change very last minute. But on my days off, I do try to create, something for myself. Welcome to my kitchen. I gutted this entire space and started from scratch. And I started with this piece of stone called wildwood that I sourced from a quarry here in France. And then worked with Manuel, a woodworker here in Marseille, and sort of did this patchwork mahogany. So you can see that like the grains are going different directions. Because I find wood grain going in one direction, it feels like wallpaper. My custom red faucet, powder coated. I'm very, very lovingly obsessed with my faucet. This is really one of the most beautiful points of the house, I think, because you can see the stone nuances and the wood grain nuances emulating each other, and that's kind of like pornography for me. And you move on into the dining room, which opens up into the garden. I love this table so much. I found it from a studio space in London. It's all made out of rebarb. And these beautiful chairs. I love texture and I love material. One would say I'm a material girl because I just think that the juxtaposition of something quite industrial with the wood and then the cement floors and everything, it creates a really beautiful conversation. And so we go now into the garden. And this is actually my dining room table from New York City that I had inside of my space for 17 years. Again, you can see it's like a slab of wood with like these really heavy metal chain bases and these beautiful safari chairs. I've always, always, always loved this chair. I've always loved the timelessness of this chair. I lived bi-coastally for 17 years. I had my place in New York and California, and I think The aesthetics were actually quite similar in both of my spaces, but as I, started to sort of edit down my life, you start to just really look at your things and just creating more intentionality with everything. So I sold a ton of my things, and the pieces that I just really resonated with were the things that ended up coming in a shipping container over the ocean. So this is a bit of a mix between things that lived in California, which then got shipped to New York, which then everything collectively in New York got shipped over here. I look back on this whole move and it's maybe something that I wouldn't do again, but I'm really happy by being surrounded by these pieces that bring a lot of grounding to me. Live beautiful for me just means that everything in your life is meaningful. It means that the way that you cook your food is just as important as how you create a home, and how you create a home is just as important to the music that you listen to, and the music that you listen to is just as important as, how you take care of yourself. It's like everything's sort of ceremonial in a way, I think, if you're living beautifully. I think it's all connected to meaning.